Hey everybody, it's Mr. Cudhill. Um, Thanks for bearing with me and trying your best with this online learning. We're all learning together and we're all trying to be patient together so that we can get back to our normal lives. Um, I don't know if by now we have decided whether or not to have spring break or not. I've put some assignments on there for spring break just in case. I'm sure the survey results will come out in a day or two. I've asked you to do a lot of stuff without me, a lot of these webinar things, a lot of stuff with Mr. Anderson, and I appreciate your patience. It's often good to hear academic things from different perspectives. I had a professor once that said he wanted us to use different textbooks than the one that he assigned, um, and it was a sign of intelligence. If you looked outside of kind of your own little sphere of academia. My point is thank you for being patient. You're going to be seeing a lot of me over the next few weeks because uh, first of all, we're going to start ecology, and we're going to do ecology for 1 week, which is really sad. Most of it's a review too. You've seen all of these concepts. I'm just going to reinforce a lot of them over the next 10, 15 minutes in this video. Then once we get through that this week, we are going to start to 100% get ready for the test. And the test is made up of two FRQs. And so my goal is just to work with you again and again. And I will be giving you a video every time I ask you to do something. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to tell you what I see. I'm going to try to coach you so that you are not shocked and that you are ready to go on the day of the test. I've done this for 20 years. And so I have some ideas that maybe others don't. And I hope to help you sincerely. You know, I told my wife when this whole pandemic lockdown and this terrible thing started that one of the real losers here, other than a lot of humans, was going to be the environment. And my rationale was that any environmental momentum that anyone had in order to conserve was just going to be lost. If our economy got depressed or people had other issues on their mind, being healthy and saving their business and all those things and their families, and maybe I was right, maybe I wasn't. But what she said was, hey, maybe this is actually going to help the environment. It's going to show people that they're only as healthy as their neighbor is, meaning India in this case, um, or your neighbor down the street, either with a virus or with our environment. We're all connected, and I think personally, the world had lost a lot of that focus and understanding over the last decade or so. I was struck when I saw this on Twitter that the guy lives that close to the mountains and he has not seen it in 3 decades. Here's another picture. This guy's on his roof and he's seeing the mountains for the first time ever. It's incredible, and as pollution levels drop around the world, and they're going to pick up again. I get it once industry starts again. And in fact, I read an article the other day. They think that it may pick up even more than normal industry because they're going to try to make up for lost time. I just hope that everyone thinks about the environment and how we can help the environment. Um, 15 years from now, in Earth Day 2035, um, I hope that things are better than they are today. I really do. I have faith. Um, what can you do? You can do small things, and those small things from all of us will add up. Also, there's an election coming up, so either you can vote or you can't. If you can't, make sure to be an active force for what you believe in. And if you can vote, make sure that 100% that you get your voter registration done and you get it done. And vote for whatever you believe in. I'm not telling you to vote for what I believe in. I obviously believe in the environment and conservation and sustaining the environment. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe the environment's something to be exploited. But vote the way you want to. But this is part of this unit, and chapter 56 in your book is basically environmental issues of clear-cut logging and pollution and all these things. So I feel I am able to at least mention some of what I think, and you can make your own decision, please. Well, I'm about to go off screen here. I want to let you know that this is made up of 4 chapters. The first one is chapter 52. It's pretty simple what they want us to do here. You need to be reminded of terrestrial biomes and how climate and disturbance helps control what occurs there. I'll show you a few examples of what we're talking about here. A rocky intertidal zone on the Oregon coast. You know that coral reefs make up a type of biome. There's rainforests where lots of organismal diversity exists. There's savannas and so on. The key here is that this is it. The whole point was that we started with the atom and we started to put them together in molecules, and those were put together to make um, macromolecules, and then we made organelles, and then cells occurred, and then that we got up to larger things like tissues and physiology and anatomy, and then evolution. Now here we are. Finally, we've gone from atoms to the whole planet. Excuse me. So it's a pretty exciting time, and this should make up about 10% of our course. Of course, it isn't, but I just want to get you enough so that you can get the credit through CMC. And when your college asks 2 years from now, hey, we're giving you credit for taking a freshman level college biology course. What did you learn there? And did you do everything? And you can say, yes, we did ecology also, at least at the freshman biology level. I think this will be sufficient, especially in light of what's going on. So chapter 52 is all about organisms. And then you can see here, we're just growing in size. We think about populations. Those are the same species, like a group of same species organisms. Once they start to get with others, they becomes a community, and those others can be plants or animals or fungus or anything like that. And then once you start to throw in things that are abiotic, like fire and water and atmosphere, then we start talking about ecosystems. You can see here that there's a lot in chapter 53 that they want us to go over, but what stands out to me are things like exponential and logistic growth models, and you've seen those in human geography as well as lately when you're looking at the COVID-19 epidemic graphs that you see on the news. Um, and then they talk about density dependent and independent factors that cause populations to either thrive or be hindered in some way. I'm just going to show you two or three slides here. You've seen the example of the moose and the wolves on Isle Royal, which is an island off the coast of Michigan. And you've probably heard about lynx and hare, and how the prey of the lynx whether it's doing well or not directly results in how well the lynx are doing. I read an article on the lynx in the West the other day, and they're really struggling, especially with their ranges being kind of impeded upon by humans and also global warming. Make sure you understand that the population of one organism is dependent on another, especially if they're a prey and a predator. And you can see that here as there's the boom bust cycles with the snowshoe hare and the lynx. And I know we went over this in 10th grade biology. There's a movie down below on the Google Classroom page that I think is worth watching. It hits a bunch of great concepts. It's 6 minutes long, on population ecology. And I put two other movies down there. These are classics. They're each 8 or 9 years old. One's on the secret language of elephants, and the other is about conservation in Kenya. There's a professor that's featured predominantly in that 60 minutes, 12-minute episode. Probably 8 of the minutes are with Robin Reed. Dr. Reed works at CSU. You can write her an email today if you're inspired after you watch this, and she'd probably be excited to hear that you watched the 60 minutes episode today. But the point is these are real people, and you have access to them. CU has, I think I read once, 7 Nobel Prize winners on their science staff, and CSU has a great science department, especially for environmental and animal sciences. I know the Gongaware family all wants to go there. Most of them, sorry, Kaya, for vet sciences, and there's a lot of great stuff going on there too. So if you're interested in this stuff, CU or CSU, I think are wonderful universities. With respect to chapter 54, you've seen a lot of these things. If you look at 54.2, you'll see trophic structure. That the term trophic might ring a bell. And then let me go over a couple of these pictures here. So the idea is that once you start to get a lot of things together, that's a community. And so there's a lot of different interactions occurring here between organisms. You'll start to see, if you were to look at chapter 54, things like food webs and how organisms are interrelated as far as matter and energy flowing between them. You see, I've highlighted, underlined a word there, trophic, and that has to do with these trophic level things. You can do it in a diagram or you can do it in a pyramid. And you can see here things like primary producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary and quaternary consumers. And you saw all of this in 10th grade biology. The way that we have represented it before is in a triangle. And there's a lot of vocab here in this chapter, like heterotrophs and autotrophs. And the reason why it's in a pyramid is because we're trying to symbolize the fact that there was a lot of matter at the bottom of any ecosystem and that it gets smaller as you go up. I'm going to show you what my board looked like with some notes last year in just a moment on this. But make sure you just remind yourself of these vocab words here. Here is the board. Remember, the producers are basically anything that does photosynthesis and takes in sunlight and combines water and atmospheric carbon dioxide into a compound that we call glucose. And the whole idea is that they're taking the energy from the sun and transferring that light energy into chemical potential energy in the covalent bonds between the atoms. These are often plants, but they certainly can be things like zooplankton or phytoplankton or certain types of bacteria. Even some animals do photosynthesis. Um, oh, sorry, my bad. And then we could take the dry mass of all of the organisms. Let's just use the example of the hillside outside of our classroom. We could kill them all, weigh them, and we get a certain number. And then we could say, oh, it's the consumers that would eat those producers if they were alive. And then we could weigh the consumers, which are most often the primary consumers, which are most often herbivores, like things that eat leafy plants, like a deer or a bunny or a mole or something like that. They're going to be eaten, oh my gosh, sorry, by primary consumers, which will then in turn be eaten by tertiary consumers and so on. This whole thing is powered by the sun. And the reason why I was talking to you about this pyramid symbolism is because we can put numbers to this. And the whole idea is that as we go from the bottom to the top and we weigh those organisms that made up that level of the trophic structure in that ecosystem, um, we would then see that the layer or level above the previous one only has about 10% of the matter that the previous one had. And so there's something called the 10% rule. And that means that 90% of the matter or weight, or in this case, that is equated to energy because of E equals mc squared, but also because when an eagle eats a squirrel on a hillside, it's not looking at the squirrel as energy, it's looking at the squirrel as matter, which will then give it energy. And so energy is flowing from from the bottom to the top here. And there's a constant supply of new energy that needs to be input in any ecosystem, or else the ecosystem will collapse. If that sunshine stops happening, there's no biology on our planet. Let me show you a couple pictures here. Here's a picture out of your textbook. You can see that 90% of the energy, and we equate that to the matter if we were to weigh this in, I guess, in grams, as we go up from one trophic level to the next. So I'm going to outline a couple more things here. Make sure that you understand that energy flows and matter is recycled. So um, we need a constant supply of new energy in any ecosystem, but the matter itself, the atoms that make up the organisms there, are recycled. If you think about the squirrel or the plant or the eagle, they are all going to die one day, and the atoms from their bodies are going to be broken down by decomposers and put back in the soil. And then a year later, that eagle's nitrogen and carbon atoms will be now in a sunflower. And so what's cool about that is that the atoms that you have in your body have been used thousands and thousands of times. You have dinosaur atoms in you, sorry, and you have atoms that were once in sunflowers and in eagles and stuck at the bottom of lakes or rivers or oceans for millions of years. It's crazy to think that the atoms have been here long before you. They're now incorporated in you, and think about where your atoms are going to be a million years from now, probably down in South America in a condor that's soaring above high cliffs above we used to call the Pacific Ocean. I don't know. It's pretty cool to think about, I think. Here's a picture that I showed you, like the second day of school. Just know that energy comes in, it's super inefficient. We know that through cellular respiration. Most of that chemical potential energy in those covalent bonds between the atoms is lost as heat. It's only like 39% efficient. So we need a constant new supply. And then obviously the matter is going to be recycled, all of these atoms over time. But we're almost done. This is the last thing we got to go over. And it's just about geochemical cycles. And there's four of them, and we've seen them before. Here they were on the board last year. When you think about the water cycle, just remember these three terms: evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. Here's a picture out of your textbook from about the water cycle. I know you know that from middle school. The carbon cycle is all about this thing that we've been following the entire year with photosynthesis, cellular respiration. Here's the picture of the carbon cycle from your textbook. If you need to review it, you certainly can. Finally, the next one is the nitrogen cycle. Remember, and we've gone over this, that there's a lot of nitrogen out there in the atmosphere. It's made up of 78% nitrogen, and we can't utilize it because it's triple bound to itself, meaning the two atoms have a triple covalent bond between them. There's a few things on the planet. There's some bacteria in the soil and some on the root nodules of plants that can break this down. And it's important that we get nitrogen from plants and from animals that have eaten plants because we need it for nitrogenous bases and nucleic acids, as well as in the amine groups of amino acids which make up protein. So you got to have nitrogen, and that's why if you ever fertilize plants, a lot of what the fertilizer is just nitrogen for the plants to be able to grow well. Here's the nitrogen cycle. There's a lot of detail here. You don't need to know this detail unless you were a biology major or taking this to the next level. Finally, the phosphorus cycle is the fourth important biogeochemical cycle. Um, just know that phosphorus basically is stuck inside of rocks most of the time, and then it's released through wind and rain caused erosion. It usually goes then into bodies of water where it gets taken up by plants, and then animals eat those plants, and then so on and so forth, and then seas become deserts. And sometimes those sedimentary layers have phosphorus atoms stuck in them, similar to like what we see in the Glenwood Canyon. So phosphorus atoms can be stuck for millions of years, single atoms in rocks. So as you're driving through Glenwood Canyon next, go ahead and take a long look at those rocks. Just say to everyone else in the car, man, I wonder how many phosphorus atoms are stuck in that rock face right there. And they'll probably punch you hard in the shoulder, but that's good. You're a science nerd, whether you want to admit it or not. Phosphorus is important. You've seen it many times in the backbones of DNA. Um, you've seen it in ATP and the phosphate group in the ATP, as well as in phospholipid bilayer. So it makes up about 1% of the dry weight of humans. Um, I'm going to pause for effect here. Congratulations. Go ahead and stand up, pat yourself on the shoulder, give your friend a virtual hug, scream to the heavens. Congratulations, you did it. It's over. Textbook is over. I told you in early April that we would be done with content, and I did not lie. That's it. I hope that the Cliffs Notes help you. And then, I think in order to do this right, I did assign the final webinar on ecology, and we just have to do this. While ecology will not be on the AP biology test, and we're going to get to that after this week, you have to do that for CMC. There's no way a CU next year can say, "Hey, let's give you credit for taking freshman level biology when you never did anything in ecology." So, good news for us is that we live in a place where ecology is totally emphasized all the time, and you see it around you. So these concepts should be easy. You've been doing a great job in middle school and in 10th grade with ecology. So um, just uh, stay good with that kind of base knowledge that you have, and just make sure that you review it over these next few days, and then we'll be done. Congrats. So proud of you, and I miss you all.